Hi guys, welcome to another episode. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to build a simple student management system like this with Python programming language using PyCharm IDE and tkinter classes and more. So now you can see this student management system. I'm going to show you the functionalities of this student management system. So here we have all of the labels, and over here we have the entry fields, and over here we have the radio button and the option menu. So basically, what this student management system is all about is just going to help you get data, all of your details, and then register them up to the database. And you can as well upload your picture here on this frame here. And then when you click on register button, it's going to display all of your details that you have entered over here down on this text field. And then you can as well print those data. And then when you're done with that, you can reset all of this field, reset them to 0. So this is a situation you're going to clear up the screen. And then for everything that you have done, when you are done, you can as well click on your exit button to exit this window. So now let me give you an example. Secondly, when you're putting on details on this student ID, emphasis on this student ID is when you have an already registered ID, you can't have a repetition of that. You have to create another ID, so whereby putting in another number. So for each user or each person has a unique ID. So let me show you this. I'm just going to register a name. Let me say 5, and the first name is Stephanie, and the last name is Benson. And then for the date of birth is 3rd, let's assume it's 3rd Feb, that. And then she's a Christian. And her class is junior high. And the father's name is, let's say, Mr. Vika Benson. And then for the mother's name is Mrs. Laura Benson. And then for the home address, we're going to say number 24 Amston Street. Okay, of course, she's a female, and let's say she's a Nigerian. And then for the phone number, I'm going to start with Nigerian code, and then like that. And then for the next of kin, I'm going to say Mr. Carter, Mr. Carter Benson. He is an uncle. And then for the phone number, let's say that. And then we're just going to search for an image for him. I'm just going to go to my desktop. There are a few pictures. So let's assume this is Mr. Carter, and then I'm just going to open this here and then register. Okay, so this has been stored in the database already. So if you get a successful storage in the database, this message box is going to pop up and to let you know that this process was successful. Okay, so now you can see all of these details that you have entered here has displayed here. So from this now, including this picture, now you can see from here now we can click on our print. So basically what this print is going to do is to convert this to text into a platform where you can easily just print it out. So this is just going to convert all of this to a platform and print it out for you. So after that is done, okay, so let me show you how this print is going to work. Okay, so let me do that. Print here. Yes, of course, I want to print. And now you can see that this has been converted to this page. So I can easily change the name here and just say the name of this information is Stephanie _ dancing. And then I'm going to, okay, this is the folder that I'm going to save it in. I'm just going to save it, and this folder is on my desktop, so I'm going to go over to my desktop and show you that this thing has been saved in that folder. So we're just going to save this here. Now, in order for you to confirm that this process was successful, you're going to see here file conversion successful, and this is going to pop up like this. So basically it converted every of those details into the text, and this is the platform that is going to convert it to. It's going to display this for you, and it is our Adobe Reader. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. Okay, so now let's go down to the screen. Now this is the project, the folder created for this project. Now you can see the image that was selected and the folder that was the PDF file that the details from here has been converted to, and it's been saved in this PDF form. Now from here, you can still open this file here, and then you can print directly from here. Okay, so now let's go over to the database to be sure that this information are in the database. So I'm just going to click on this. Now this is the name of the database. You can see here from our projects folder, the name of the database here is student management details. So that has been created and the information has been stored in this database. So we're simply going to go to the DB browser for viewing the details of that database. So now over here is the name of the database. Okay, so this is the name of the database and this is the table that's been created. So I'm just going to open this. I'm just going to browse the data on that data. Now you can see, I think we have double of that, but if you look at the ID, your unique IDs, so it means that you can't use same ID for a different person. Okay, so this is it. This has been stored here. So now let's go back to our GUI to confirm for some validations here. Okay, I can reset this. Okay, everything has been reset. Now let's look at the last number that has been stored in this database is 5. If you go back here and try to use the same ID to create someone else's information, this is not going to work. It's simply going to tell you that this ID has already been used or the ID already exists. So let's see. And then once that is done, every other information gets deleted. So it means that you have to go and insert a brand new ID. So let's assume this, 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 and say it's a female, and this, this, this. And then we're going to upload a picture. I'm going to go to my desktop and get this image here, and then we register this. Okay, now you can see that is successful. Okay, you can as well print. So now let's go back to our DB browser, our database, to confirm that. I'm just going to refresh this. Now you can see student ID number 6 has been entered successfully. And then you can as well go to your project folder to confirm the image. Now the image has been stored in this project folder. Okay, so that is just it for creating this simple student management system. Okay, I've shown you how to do the register. Now I'm going to show you in this episode how to create the functionalities of these buttons over here and including the time. All right, so if you enjoy my videos, please click on the subscribe button, like, and leave comments. Okay, without any further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, so before we start, we have to create a folder for this project. So here on my desktop, I'm just going to create a folder and name this, just going to call this school management projects. Okay, and then with that, I'm going to put in the few things that I'm going to be using on this project. So I would be using this image for my this my picture label here. So what I'm going to do is just to organize this inside a folder. So I'm simply going to copy this and just paste it in that folder. Okay, let's see. All right, it's there now. So for the next stage is to go down to my PyCharm, okay, and then create a project, a new project. And then I'm just going to call this school management, okay, let's see, management project. And I'm just going to create this. Now, let me create a new window for that. Okay, so that is done. And you can see that the picture that I had already put my in my folder, it's already opened here on my PyCharm. Okay, so that is it. You can as well just view this to confirm that. Okay, so that is done. The next is to create a new file for this project. So this is a Python file. Just going to call it management project. Okay, so you can name it whatever you want, and I'm just going to hit enter. And then this file is created. So now let's start with this project. Okay, so for the next stage is to import tkinter. Okay, so I'm going to simply do that by typing from tkinter import asterisk. So basically, this tkinter package provides classes that would allow us to display, position, and control widgets. Okay, so for the next stage is to create a variable to establish an interface with this tkinter. So I'm just going to call this Windows, and this window is just going to be with our tkinter, like I said. And the next stage is to give a size to this window by using a widget called geometry. So basically this geometry is for resizing this window, okay? And we'll do that by giving a value to the window from the x-axis, the y-axis, the height, and the width. All right, so I'm just going to do that by simply calling out the name of the windows by saying windows dot geometry. And then I'm just going to give the sizes to this. So from my width is going to be 190 by 800. I think that should be the height. And then from the x-axis, I'm just going to leave this on default 0 0. So next is to configure a background color for this window. I'm just going to simply call the name of the windows and configure that. So the BG is for background, and the color that I will be using is carded blue. Okay, so next is I'm going to give a title to this window. So this is actually optional for you. So I'm just going to say title. I'm just going to call this student management projects. Okay, so let's confirm that truly this window has been created. I'm going to say Windows and window. Okay, let's run this. All right, that is it. So this is created. You can decide to maximize it and minimize it. Okay. So for the next stage now is to create the profile name for this project, like what I have over here. This is my own profile name, is a student management system. So that is the next stage I'm going to do now. So just going to leave a comment and say label for profile name. So I'm going to start by saying profile. Just going to give this variable name like this and call the label. So it's going to be in my windows, and the text that is going to be on that is going to be students management system. Now you can see that I escaped that character because basically in Python, in order for you to make use of the special characters in a string, you have to escape it by using this backslash. Okay, so next is the word management. Now, if you look closely, this is what I did over here. So on the first line, I did student management, and the second is going to be system. Because of space, I had to just put this down here. So I had to create, or rather, I'm going to be using two labels for this. Okay, so this is the name here, and the font that I'll be making use of is Tahoma. And the size is going to be 18, and this is going to be bold. And the background color for this, I'm just simply going to stick with the carded blue. Okay, so now is to place this name somewhere on the screen. So I'm going to call the profile name dot place. And so from the x-axis is going to be this figure, and from the y-axis is just simply going to be 0 because it's at the top of the screen. So let me run this so we can see that. Okay, so there it is. We are getting there. So for the next is for the second profile name, I'm just going to call this profile 2, and is a label, and it's still going to be my windows. So basically what I'm just going to do is to copy all of this. I'm just going to copy this and then paste it over here, and then just change this name to system. And for the place, I'm going to copy this and just paste it down here and change the x and the y axis. So for the x axis, I'm going to make use of this, and for the y axis is 40. Okay, so let me run this and we'll see that. Okay, I think something is somehow wrong here. Let's see, I have my windows, text, okay, and font and all that is working fine. This is okay. So because this is bearing the same name with this place, so it's going to lap on this one. So what I'm just going to do is to put the name corresponding with this label here, and this would work now. There it is. Okay, so that is it for the profile name. So the next stage is to put in the frames. Now, if you look over here, I have about let's say 5 frames here. Frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, and frame 5. So that is what we are going to work on now. Let me get this away. So just give a comment here and say student frame. So the first one is going to be data. I'm going to call it the data frame 1. And this is a frame label. Definitely going to be my windows. And the border is simple. And the BG, which is the background, is going to be the same colored blue. And then for my font is going to be this. The size for that is 13 and make it bold. Next is the width. So this width is going to be this, and then the height is going to be this. Okay, so let me get this over here. And the height is that, and then I'm going to use a relief groove for this. Next is to place this somewhere on the screen. So I'm just going to use the name of the frame and then use the widget called place. And then from the x-axis it's going to be 2, and then from the y-axis it's just going to be 20. Okay, so let me run this. There it is. So that is good. So for the next is to, now if you look here, we have the next of kin frame. So that is what is going to be on this other data frame here. This other data frame 1. So the next is going to be this next of kin. So I'm just going to call this, get this away. I'm going to call this NOK for short. NOK as next of kin frame. And then I'm going to still use a label frame for this. Okay, so I'm going to use a label frame for this, and this is going to be in my data frame 1. And then the BD is going to be 7. And then the text that is going to be on that is going to be my, sorry, this is a string. It's going to be my next of kin. And then we have the font, which is going to be Arial. And the size for that is this, and it's going to be bold. Next is my background. So I still maintain my carded blue. Okay, let me put this down here. And then the next is the width. The width is 430. And then the height is 80. Okay, so that is it. I'm going to place this somewhere on the screen. I'm just going to call the name of the frame and use the widget place. And then from the x-axis is just simply going to be 2, and then for the y-axis is going to be 570. Let's confirm that. All right, that is fine. So we are getting there. So the next is going to be our student detail frame. Okay, there it is. Is our student detail frame. So we're going to first get this frame and then this text over here, or a text box, so that's what it's called. So now I'm just going to say, I'm just going to call it student student details, student detail frame. And this is a label frame. Okay, so what I'm just going to do here is to copy this, and then I'm just going to paste it over here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is over here I'm just going to give a text to this, and the text for that is going to be the student details. Okay, then that. All right, so I have to be sure that everything is there, so let me get this over here. And this is going to be same page with the brother. And then for my width is the 450 and the height for that is going to be 670 as well. And the relief is this. Now I'm going to place this on that screen by simply calling the name of this student frame and using my place. And then from my x-axis is just going to be this value, and then for my y-axis is going to be this. Okay, so we're going to confirm that. All right, so that is working well. Do not worry about this. Once I put that text box, it's going to expand. Okay, so for okay, so now is to place that text frame in this student's detail frame. So what I'm going to do here is to just going to call this student details, just simply student details. Just going to call it text. And then this is a text frame, and this is going to be in my student frame over here. So this is the frame that I want it to be. So I'm just going to call this student frame. And then for the height is going to be 28. And then for the width is going to be this. And then for my border is going to be just 5. And the background that I would be working with is just a white background. Next is the font. Okay, so my font is Arial. And then I'm just going to use this size for the font and then make it bold so for people to see this clearly. And then I'm going to place this on that frame. I'm going to call this student detail text dot grid. I will be making use of grids today, so I will use a row 0 and column 0. So basically it's just going to occupy 0 value here. All right, so we are coming up over here. There it is. This is the current one. This is the previous one, and this is the current one. So for the next is what we're going to work on is our I'm going to work on our button frame, which is this frame here, this button frame. Okay, so that is going to go away. Next is going to be give a hashtag button frame. So for the button frame, just going to call this button frame. And this is definitely a label frame, and this is going to be okay. So I'm simply just going to copy this here. Just going to copy this and paste it over here. Okay, so this button frame is going to be on my, okay, no, this is a different button. Okay, so this is going to be on my Windows. And then for my, okay, BD is correct and BG, yes, correct. And we do not need a font for this. This is going to go away. And then for my width, this is going to be a 530. And then for the height, okay, let me put this over here. And then for the height, this is just going to be 120. I do not need to use this relief. Okay, so that is it now. I'm going to place this on the screen. Just going to call this my button frame dot place. And then for my y-axis, I'm going to use my 740 is 570. Let me see that. Okay, why am I having this error here? Okay, so that's just supposed to be y-axis and not x in repetition. So this is what I'm this is it, my button frame. So for the next frame is going to be my image frame, like what we have here, like what I have over here. So let me put this away and start up with that. So I'm going to call this image frame. Okay, so I'm going to start by just going to call this image frame, and this is a frame, and it's just going to be my window. So I'm just going to copy this over here and then just paste this here and then edit all of this. So here I have my border is here is going to be 3, and then for my background, okay, this is going to be black. Okay, and then for my width, I do not need this for this frame, so this is going to go away. And then for my width is going to be 230. Get this back right here. And then for the height is going to be 230. So just for the height and the width to maintain the same value, the same size. And then let me place this on the screen. I'm just going to call in the name of that frame and then use this widget here and say for my x-axis is going to be 480, then from the y-axis is going to be 100. Okay, let's see that. Wow, that is it. The next is to give this image to this frame like this. So basically this is where our pictures are going to be displayed. So this is just an indicator or an indication that this frame is for picture. That is why I'm using this domat picture here. Okay, so now to get that, where I have already posted that image in the code, I have it right here. So what I'm just going to do is simply copy this and put it in the code. Okay, so now let's run the next code for pasting this picture on that frame. So I'm just going to call this variable called image and then use my photo image. Okay, so before I do that, I'm simply going to import tile. Okay, so that's a photo image class. Okay, so this comes with widgets for displaying images. So I'm just going to go to the top of my screen and then I'm just going to say from tile, which is photo image library. Okay, and then import image and image for TK. Then I'm just going to go back here and then continue with what I have to do. So I'm just going to say file and then just going to give this. And then I'm going to go to my image that I have posted already here. Just going to simply copy this and paste it here. Okay, so that is the image that will be displayed on this image frame. So now is to give a label for this. So I'm just going to call this label. And then this is definitely going to be in this image frame. So I'm just going to call this image frame over here. And then for the background that I would want for this, it's just simply going to be white. And then for the image, you're going to use this img variable that I have created here already. There it is. You can simply just copy this and paste it over here. So next, So this is the line of code for pasting this image on that label. So now after that is done, the next is to place it in that image frame. Is to give a place for this image. So now I'm just going to say my lb dot place. And then from the x-axis, I'm just going to give it a 0, and from the y-axis, it's going to be 0. You can decide not to include anything here, okay? So this is just some default. Okay, so that is it. That is done. Okay, so for the next stage is to then work on our labels, our entry field, our radio button, our option menu. Okay, this is what we are going to work on now. Okay, so let's head on to that next stage. So I'm just going to give a hashtag labels and entry fields. So for the next, the first one is going to be my student ID, which I have here, over here. Okay, so let me call this student, student ID. So that is a label. Okay, so that is a label, and that label is going to be in that my frame. So you see this frame, the first one, remember, is the student detail frame, okay, which is what I have here, the data frame 1. So that is where this label is going to be placed. So I'm going to call that the student frame 1. And then the text, that is just going to call this students, sorry, students, okay, I don't know what that is, students, oh sorry, this is a text, I'm using the form of a string, and this is going to be students ID, that is it. And then the font for that is going to be this, and then the size is this, and then this is going to be bold. And then the background that I would work with this is still going to maintain the same color. It's a beautiful color. And then for my font ground is just going to be black for that. And then to place this on that frame, so I'm going to call the student ID dot place. And from the x-axis is just going to be 2, and then from the y-axis is going to be 10. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is going to be this and not that. Was a mistake. All right, so let me run this to confirm. Okay, so that is it. All right, so let me just work on all of this now. So this is the entry field, and this is going to be in my same data frame. And I'm going to work with the width for this, and then order all the width, this, and font is this. And then that is it for that. Okay, so I'm having this error here. All right, so let me place this on the screen. We're just going to call this ID entry name dot place. So this is going to be placed simultaneously with the student ID that I have created. So this entry field is for the student ID. And then for given this x-axis is going to be 200 and the y-axis is just going to be let's say 1. Okay, all right, so let me run this and see what we have here. Okay, so that is way up top of the um, label. So let me give this an 11 to see where this is. Okay, so now this is in place. Next is going to be our next is going to be the first name. I'm going to call this first name, and it's the label. It's going to be in our data frame 1. Okay, so I'm just simply going to copy this and just paste it over here. And this name is going to change to first name. Okay, everything remains the same, but for the x and the y axis is going to change, including the name. So for this name here is going to be first name. And then to place this, so the x-axis is still the same, but the y-axis is going to be different. So this is 61. Now to give an entry field for this, I'm simply going to copy this and then change it. So I'm going to give this, okay, let me see, I'm just going to give this, I'm going to call this first name entry. So an entry field is that, so everything's the same apart from the place. Now from the x-axis is 200 and from the y-axis is going to be, okay, sorry, this is 60 and this is 61. Okay, this is 61. Okay, so let me run this. All right, so that is it. Next is going to be our last name. So just simply going to copy all of this, paste it over here, change the name. This is the last name. So same thing goes here. And every other thing remains the same apart from the place. So for this place is going to be, all right, 2, and then from the y-axis is just 110. So from the entry field for this, I'm going to copy this and then paste it over here. So I'm going to call this last name entry. This is the last name entry, and every other thing remains the same apart from the place. From the x-axis is 200, and from the y-axis is going to be 111. You can always run this and check. Okay, so that is fine. So for the next is our date of birth. I'm going to copy this, place it over here. Just going to get this out of here. So how I am getting this cursor to be placed on multiple line of codes is this. What you're going to just going to first of all place your mouse in wherever you want to place it, like here, and then click on that area. And then you hold on to your Alt key, which is the Alt key on your keyboard. And then you go to the next part you want to click on and then click on it. And then you let it go. And then you can click, you can use your backspace to delete that, which is what I'm doing right now. Okay, so this would be easier for you. So this is DOB, which is our date of birth, and this name is going to change here. DOB. Everything remains the same. For the x-axis is okay. For the y-axis is going to be 160. And then for this one remains the same, x-axis remains the same, but the y-axis changes. This is just 161. So for my next stage is going to be the religion stage. I'm going to copy this and then paste it over here and then change this name. Oh gosh, change it to religion. Okay, the text is going to change. And then the y-axis, x-axis remains the same, but for the y-axis is going to be different. This is going to be 210. And then for the next one is going to be 211. Okay, let's run this to confirm that. All right, we are getting there. So for the next is going to be the class. See, the class label. So I have copied that already. I'm going to paste this here and then simply put my mouse there with my Alt key and get this off and call this class. Okay, so you can see this class is already a method in our in Python, so you can't just use the same name because this is a sensitive case here. So I'm just going to call this class underscore. Okay, so this does not rhyme with every other thing here. So I'm going to call this okay, so that's it. Let me just say class 1. All right, so that has solved this case right now. So here is going to be a class. And then for the y-axis, this is going to change to 261. Yes. Okay. Yes, this is 260 and this is 261. Just 1 inch difference. That's it. Okay, so that is working well. The next stage is going to be our father's name. I'm going to change this usual. You can decide to skip all these processes if you know you can do all of this. Okay, so this is father. Just gonna call this father name. And then this goes here. Father's escape key name. And for the the y-axis, this is going to be 310. Then this is going to be 311 as usual. Next is mother's name. Put this here, change the label and entry name, call this mother. And then change this to mother. The text is going to be mother. And then for the y-axis for this is going to be 360. And then this is going to be 361. That is it. So next is going to be our home address. I'm going to copy this and then paste It down here and change the name. No, let me just get this out. Okay, it's not going to be here. I'm just going to call this home address. And then over here, it's going to be the same. This is home address entry. Home address entry. That is it. And here, I'm going to call this home address. And for the y-axis here is going to be this 410, and for this other one is going to be 411. Next is going to set up our variable for radio buttons. Okay, so this is our radio button and this option menu. So we're going to work on that now. Okay, so now first thing first is to create a variable for this. I'm going to call this gender label. So this is a label, and definitely is going to be in our, this is it. Definitely is going to be in our data frame 1. The text that I want for that is gender. The font ground is just going to be black as usual. And the BG background is going to be added blue. The font that is this Tahoma, and 13, and it's going to be bold. And then for this gender label to be placed somewhere on the screen, I'm going to call this from the x-axis, it's going to be 2, from the y-axis, it's going to be 450. So now is to create the radio button for this. Okay, so I'm going to call this gender radio, gender radio 1, and this is a radio button, and it's going to be on our data frame. And then the background for this, I will still make use of our added blue. And then the text that I want for this is going to be male. And the variable that we would be working with for this is going to be gender. I'm going to call this gender. And the value for this is going to be male. And then the font that I would be using for this, is still going to be my Tahoma. And then this is going to be 13, and it's going to be bold. Okay, so do not worry about this red error here, this error. When I declare the string variable for this error is simply going to go away. Okay, so let me place this on the screen before we work on that. So I'm going to call this gender radio label 1 and just call this place. And then this place is simply going to help us place this on the screen. So from the x-axis is that, and from the y-axis is going to be 450. So this is for the male gender radio button, like what we have here. like what I'm having over here, the male. So next is to work on this female radio button. So I'm simply just going to copy this and then paste it below this labels, and then simply change the name to gender radio button 2. And the text that is going to be there is going to be female. Okay, so from the x-axis for this is going to be 290, and this remains the same. So now for this to go away, I'm just simply going to go to the top of these other labels that I have created, and then just give a string variable for this. I'm just going to call this the gender, which is gender we have down here, this variable that I've used. So that is the name that I would be using all through for calling out these other radio buttons here. So I'm just going to call this gender. So this is where the information or the data is going to be taken from. So this gender and string variable. Since it's a string, I'm just going to use my string variable. Now we can go down to confirm this error has gone away. Now you can see this has gone away. So this is the variable that we would be working with, right? So here is the value for this. This is a female. And the value for this is male. Okay, so let me run this for us to see. Okay, so now you can see that. All right, so we can actually set this to 0. I'm just going to go to the top of this gender here and just say gender dot set. I'm just going to set this to 0 so that we do not have double ticks on it. Now you can see that is gone. All right, so I hope that was properly understood. So next is to work on our variable, this option menu here. Okay, so that is it for our radio button. Next is our option menu. Okay, so I'm just going to call this country, just going to call this country selection. This is our country selection here. So first of all is to create a label for this. I'm going to call this country label. And this is a label. And this is going to be in our data frame. And the text for this is going to be the country. Okay, and the foreground is black. And then for the background is going to be our colored blue. And then for the font is going to be Tahoma. And then this is 13, and then this is bold. Next is to place this somewhere on the screen. I'm going to call the country label dot place, and then give it from the x-axis, it's going to be 2, and then for the y-axis is going to be 490. Let's see. That's it. The next is to give our option menu, to work on our option menu now. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to put this over here, and for this gender, this. Okay, so that is it. So now to work on our option menu. So this string variable for integers is what we're going to work on now. So I'm just going to say countries, and then going to I'm going to include the countries on this country here. So this is how this is going to work. So this is country, Australia. Next is that's Algeria, and this is Australia. So You can decide to put whatever you want over here. Australia. And then we have Bahamas. So I'm going to do this behind the screen, behind the video. Okay. Okay, so let me just paste this here. And that is it for the names of the countries that would be shown on the option menu, like what I have over here. Okay, so all of that or all of this, you have options, you have a choice to make. And then for the next is to give a set of value for this verb over here. So I'm just going to call a variable, I'm just going to call this variable 1. Okay, so you can decide to call it whatever you want to call it, and then set this to select country. Okay, so basically this variable that sets country is when you wanted to go back to its default value, like select country, this is what is going to be on it, like this. Okay, so that it doesn't just seem empty. So that is why this variable is important. Now this is still the variable we're going to be working with here. So this is going to help to select the country of your choice and give it out to and take it down to the database. So basically when you call out the select country, like any of this is basically what you're calling. So you call of this and it picks whatever choice of country you take and then take it down to the database. So that is why I'm just going to be working with this name called variable set. So variable 1 set. Then the next is to let me get this out of here. And then the next is what I'm going to do next is to just going to call this country label drop down. So that's the drop down that we're working on now for this option menu. So this option menu is going to be on our data frame. And then what is going to be on this option menu is these countries that we have declared over here. So now once you click on that option menu, the countries are going to display like this. So I'm going to call this variable name down here. I'm going to call this countries. Okay, to be on the safe side, so you won't have to experience errors, it's best to just go over here and then copy this name of the country and then paste it over here. All right, so now let's paste it on the screen. I'm going to call this country label drop down and then use the and then place it on the screen. So from the x-axis is going to be 200 and for the y-axis it's going to be this value. Okay, so now is to configure that drop down button to work. So I'm just going to call this name and then configure this. And then I'm just going to use the width for this. The width for this is going to be 15, and then for the font is going to be the usual, it's a Homer, and this is going to be 13, and it's going to be bold. Okay, and Mm-hmm. So the font ground, that is going to be black. Okay, so that is it for our country. So now let us get this string value for, it's more like our data collection. So this is what is going to help us collect this data and take them down to our database. So that's the variable that we will be working with for our option menu. So down here, I'm just going to call, okay, so let me just go down and copy that. I'm just going to copy this name, go up to the screen here, then just paste this. And this is just going to hit my string. So I guess that error should be gone by now. Okay, so that is it. So now I can run this to check this is working fine. Okay, so that is working fine. Now I want that select country to show on this. Okay, that can work later. Can work on that later. So we are just going to check what we have next. Okay, now I understand where our issue is coming from here. So if you look over here, I haven't called out this variable on this drop down option menu. That is why it's not being displayed as a default value on this option menu, like what we have here, like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to call out this variable in the option menu right here. So what I'm going to do now is to call that, and this should work, and rather it will work. So that is it. So that is it. That is working now. So this is the default value for this. So when you decide to clear the screen and want it to get back to 0, this is exactly what is going to appear on the screen. Okay, so that is it for our option menu. And we're done with our radio button and we're done with our option menu. The next stage is going to be our phone label and phone entry. So what I'm going to do is to copy this from here and go down here and then just paste this. Then change the name of the label and the entry. So this is going to be called phone, call it phone number. Then for the text, it's going to be phone number. Then for the x-axis, that is going to be correct, but for the y-axis, this is what we're going to have here, 530. And then for the y-axis, for the entry field, is going to be 531. Okay, let me run this to check. Okay, so that is it. All right. So now is to I think we need to work on the next of kin button. So this is what we're going to have now for the next of kin down here. We're going to have the name and the phone number of our next of kin, like what we have over here. Okay, so let me get this away. And then I'm going to just copy this. Okay, let me just give a hashtag next of kin. So I'm going to paste this over here and then change the name of this. And I'm going to call this our next of kin. Just going to call this and OK. So that is it. And then this is going to change to next of, okay, next of kin. So this okay, this is going to be on our next of kin frame, like what we created up here. So our next of kin frame is NOK frame. So that is where that label is going to be. So this is going to be NOK frame. Same thing applies here for the entry field. This is it for this. And then that changes, and then for the x-axis, that is correct. For the y-axis is going to be 2. So for the x-axis for our for this entry field is, let me call this, let me give this 195, and then for the y-axis I'm going to give this 31. Okay, let me see. Let's see. Okay, no, for this is going to be 2. And then let me create the phone number for our next of kin. Okay, let me put this here and change. Let me give the name to this. I'm going to call this phone underscore. Okay, give this what it deserves. All right, so the text for this is going to change. Okay, and then for the y-axis is going to change over here, and then for the entry field, this is going to be correct, and for the y-axis is this. So let me run this and see that. Okay, that has worked. All right, so let me work on that. So this is phone number. That is done. So that is it for our label and entry field and option menu and radio button for this. Next is to work on our buttons over here. So let me go down here and give a hashtag buttons. So for the first button is how many buttons? We have about 5 buttons here. The first is register. So this is how I'm just going to put this here. So I'm just going to call the first button register button. So it's a button and it's going to be in our button frame, like what we have created up here already. We have our button frame here. So just going to call that frame and then give a text on that button. So the text for that button is going to be register. And then for the background is black. And then for the foreground is going to be colored blue. For the font is going to be, okay, so this is the font that I will be using for this hashtag 57A. Is a type of color, actually. F8. And then the font is going to be this size, and this is going to be bold. So now to place this on the screen, okay, I haven't given a width this. So the width that would use for this is that. Let me give this down here. And then for the border width is 3. And then for the height is 1. It's not that much. And then since it's a button and you want your user to know that is a button, you have to use the cursor, which is the hand cursor like what we have here. Okay, let me just put this. Now you can see once you put your cursor on the button, it shows that it's something that you can click on. Okay, so that is just why I'm going to make use of this cursor. And the cursor type is a hand, and this is a hand to cursor. Okay, so that is it. So the next is to give our register button a place to stay on that screen. In from the x-axis for this is going to be 10, and then for the y-axis is going to be 10 as well. Okay, so let me run this for us to confirm. All right, so that is it. So let's work on the rest of the buttons here. Okay, I'm just going to copy this and then okay, so now is to change the name of this button. So the next button is going to be our okay, let me work on our reset button over here. So so I'm just going to call this other button. I'm going to call this reset. And this is a button, and I'll change the text on that to reset. Okay, everything remains the same, and the y-axis and the x-axis changes. So this is 350, and the y-axis is 10. Okay, so next button is going to be our upload button for uploading our pictures and the rest of them. So I'm going to reset this and call this upload. And the button and the text on that is going to be upload. And then for the y-axis is going to be 10. 65. Next is going to be our print button. Copy this, paste it, get this out, print button. The text is going to be print. For the x-axis is going to be 180, and then for the y-axis is going to be 45. So the next, last but not the least, is going to be our exit button. Change the name and then the text, and for the y-axis 350, and the x-axis 350 and the y-axis 61. Okay, so that is it. All right, so that is it with our labels, labels, entry fields, option menu, radio button, buttons. So the next phase is to give it a time, like what we have down here. You can see this timer reading on its own. So that is basically what we're going to work on right now. So I'm just going to give this time section, hashtag time section. Okay, so first and foremost, we have to create the current time and date. So by doing that, we have to import time and date module. Okay, so I'm just going to go up to the screen, up here, and import time. Import the time, and then import sorry, import time, and next is to import date time as DT. Okay, the DT is what would be recognized there. So what we next we're going to do is to, okay, go down here and then create a variable for this current time and date. Okay, so let me just call this current underscore time. So this is a label, and it's going to be in my windows, and the text on that is going to be time. And then the width that I want for this is just simply going to be 15. And then the background for this, we still maintain our colored blue. And then for the font ground is going to be black. And then for the font color, just going to maintain this color code. Oh, sorry. Hashtag 57. I think that A1F8. That's a type of color code. And then the font size is that size, and this is going to be bold. Okay, so now we're going to place this current time on the screen. Place, and it's going to be 450. From the y-axis, it's going to be 550. 550. So that's it for the time. So now for the date, we have to do a current date. This current date is a label, and still going to be in our window. So basically, I'm just going to copy what I have up here. Just copy this and then paste it in our current date, and then change the text. So the text for this is going to be in this format, because we want this label to display this date in a certain kind of format. So I'm just going to use our format and just say our format F, and then we use that, and then we're going to use our curly braces and say date, and then this date is going to be displayed in this version of percenter A. Okay, just what we have here. So for the first one is Monday, second is June, and the 26th, and then the date. So that is how this is going to be displayed. So this is going to help us to display it in that format. So the first is the day of the week, and then the second is I think the second is the month. So this is where we're going to have our percenter B, and then we're going to have their D, and for the last one is going to be the year, center Y. Okay, so that is it for this format. So this is what is going to recognize. All right, so let's see, our width for this, I'm just going to use a 20 for this width. Please don't mind that arrow, we're going to work on that. The background is that, and the font ground is still remains the same. Let me move this down here so you can see this clearly. And then for my font, I'm going to reduce this to 7 because of the length of the, or rather the width of date, so it can fit in between those other frames. So after that is done, I'm just going to go up to my screen here, and then define the time. Define the time up here. So over here, I'm just going to do this on top of the screen here. Okay, so now I'm going to, okay, before I do that, I will have to give, like, it's more like giving a command name to this time and then define it up there. So I'm going to say time update. and then give it this. And then I'll go to the top of the screen. So let me copy this. And then I go to the top of the screen where I have created for this. And then define at time. Okay. So the next thing is to call out the current time that I have created. So I'm just going to say current time. I'm going to create time dot strive time, and then give it this format. So this is the format that we're going to be seeing in the time, the hour, month, and second reading. So this is the format that's going to be given here: the hour, center, month, and then the second. Okay. Okay, so the next line is to configure this time that we have created by simply putting this current time variable as a text. So I'm just going to call current time that I have created before, that current time variable that I have created down here. Okay, now I'm calling out this label up here. So I'm going to configure this. I'm going to say the current time dot config. So I'm just going to say configure that, and then put in the name of the text that I have created here, which is this current time here. So just simply going to copy this and then paste it here. So now you can see this line of code is basically going to give us what we have created here, this. So what I did was to call out this label, and then this time that has been created here for this format would be shown on that label that has been created, which is this current time label here. So that's basically what this line of code is for. So this is to display the given format, given time format. So after that is done, we're going to give it the time difference or time ranges. You know, when you're seeing the time, it counts per seconds and all of that. So that's basically what this line of code is going to do for us now. So I'm going to say the current time dot after. Means that the time should change after every certain seconds, okay? Or rather, the time should be updated after every certain seconds. So for the seconds here is going to be this 1000, and then I'm going to call out that time update that I have called at the bottom of the screen already. So this is basically going to update the time for us. So this is this time update, okay? So now this basically is going to update the time after every 1000 seconds, yes. Okay, so that is it for this line of code. Okay, so this is it for the time. And then for the date is to call out the date, and then for this date to be done here, I'm just simply going to go here and then get off this line of code because it's not supposed to be indented. So this is just this different line of code working for our date. So now I'm going to say date is equals to our dt, which we called here. So we're working with our dt now. dt dot date time dot now. So we're working with the current date time now. I'm going to run this and see how this works. Okay, so the time is working, but our date time isn't showing anything yet. So let's check if I created a place for our date time. Okay, there's no place for this date. That is why it isn't showing on the screen. So now I'm just going to call our current date and give it a place to show on the screen. So the place for this date, I'm just going to use my x-axis 450, and then the y-axis is going to be 600. So that is it. Let's run this. Okay, it's as easy as this. Okay, so that is it for creating this GUI. So for the next stage is to work in our data collection and storing them in the database. Remember, we would be making use of DB browser, Sqlite. Okay, so that is it for this GUI. See you in the next stage.